Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen, wa salatu wa salamu ala Rasulillah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for gathering us here tonight. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make this gathering beneficial, and whatever, if there's anything that we learn from today, may Allah allow us to implement it, and may Allah forgive us for any shortcomings. You know, the topic that I was given is sometimes one of the hardest topics to talk about, because it's probably talked about so much, and you probably hear it, you probably have heard it on different khutbahs, or you probably will hear it for the next khutbahs all the way until the beginning of Ramadan. So to talk about this topic of welcoming Ramadan, it is the hardest. I will try my best. There's going to be some things that are just reminders, some things that might be new, but inshallah we try to see what benefits we can take from this. And I'll try to make it interactive. If you guys please can be involved a little bit, try to participate in the discussion, it'll just help. Otherwise, you will all fall asleep, most likely. So bismillah, let's get started. The first thing we have to understand about welcoming Ramadan is, the first question I have is, why do we fast? Can anybody just, maybe give some thoughts, or give some examples, or share some of your experiences, and why do we fast in this month of Ramadan?
Taqwa.
Okay, taqwa. That's one answer. Okay, what else? Anything else? One word answer, that's good.
We learn that we feel how the poor people can't have food.
Yes.
And God gave us food. So this way we learn.
Okay. Okay, so another reason why we fast is to, feel how the poor feel and to really humble ourselves.
Yeah.
Okay, what else? It's following the ways of the Prophet ﷺ. He used to fast. Okay, anything else?
Appreciating the blessings of Allah.
Appreciating the blessing of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is one ayah in the Quran, and you alluded to it already, but it's something that every single khatib, when they talk about Ramadan, they have to say this. Every time you talk about a program about Ramadan, you have to say this ayah, because this is the ayah for Ramadan. And that is in Surah Al-Baqarah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, kutiba alaykum as-siyam, kama kutiba ala alladhina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He says, O you who believe, fasting is prescribed upon you, just like how it was prescribed to those before you, so that way you may attain taqwa, or you may get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you may gain God consciousness. A couple of things I wanted to highlight in this ayah is, Allah says, first He is addressing to the believers, us, and then He says, fasting is prescribed upon you. It's an order. It's something that's part of your faith. It's a pillar of Islam. It's something you gotta do. Allah is giving a clear command right there, saying it's prescribed upon you. But the second thing, Allah is saying that it's actually prescribed to those people before you as well. Which people is He referring to? Does anybody know?
People of the book.
People of the book. The people of the Jewish faith and Christian faith, they also used to fast. They also were prescribed fasting in their religion. So in the Jewish faith, sometimes the fasting that they do, for example, in the holiday of Yom Kippur, they fast actually 24 hours, and it's without any food and water. So they actually start after sunset as well. So it's like after their Maghrib, they start and they go all the way until the next day, Maghrib. Friday afternoon. And then the Christians as well, they fast as well as part of Lent, right? Their fasting is a little bit different. They get to pick whatever they want to fast from. It could be, I want to fast from red meat. I want to fast from sweets, whatever they decide to do. And they fast from that thing from a certain period of time. So fasting is not something new. It's been done. It's been practiced by prophets way before our time. And then Allah is saying that it's something that is prescribed upon you as well. Why do you have to do this? So that way you get to attain taqwa, you get to be close to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is an opportunity for us to really recharge our spiritual batteries. This is why Ramadan is here for us. You know, I mentioned in the khutbah today here that we might be maybe hearing the news for the past few weeks on what's happening in Syria. It might, you know, make a person feel down. It might make a person feel emotionally just drained. This is a time to really focus on our spirituality and really try to uplift ourselves and recharge ourselves so we can be ready for the next year. One of the speakers, he said, is Ramadan is kind of like your boot camp. Ramadan is where you recharge yourself spiritually so that way you can be ready for the remaining year that's coming. And then as the year comes closer to the end, your battery is kind of going down, your iman level is going a little bit down, and then when Ramadan comes, and you get to recharge it again. But the one thing I wanted to highlight, one incident that focused on Ramadan, is a story by a Sahaba. And the story is, Talha says, I met two people in during the time of Prophet. One of the person, he says, was a person that used to really strive and was really a go-getter. He used to be at the forefront of every good deed. He would be at the masjid all the time. He would try to do as many good actions as he can. And then he says that one of his days he went out in one of the battles and he fought for the sake of Islam and he was martyred. He says the second person also became Muslim. This person was just an average person, an average Muslim. He didn't do anything special, an average person. He passed away a year after this first person. And then one night I had a dream. On that dream, I was in front of paradise, and I could see the gate of paradise. And I also saw next to me these two people. And a person came out from the gate, he opened it, and he told the second person, the one that was just average, to come inside. And he came inside Jannah, and then he closed the door. And then Talha said, the person opened the door again, and then he asked the first person to come inside, and then he came into Jannah, and he closed the door. And the third time the person came out, and he told Talha, he said, go back, your time hasn't come yet. And Talha said, I woke up. So he wakes up from this dream and he tells all the Sahaba that this is the dream I had about those two people. One of them was really someone who was a shaheed, a martyr of Islam. But that person, he entered Jannah second. The second person who was just an average, random person, he just did his basics, he didn't do anything extraordinary, he entered Jannah first. So the Sahabas were amazed. And then this news got to the Prophet ﷺ. So the Prophet ﷺ, he called Talha and he said, Talha, is this the dream that you're telling me about? He says, yes. And he says, why are you amazed? What's so amazing about this story? He says, Ya Rasulullah, I don't understand. When someone's doing, so many good deeds, he's a shaheed. In our faith, a shaheed is someone that's going to be in the highest level of Jannah for sure, right? It's someone that has a high status in Jannah. So he says, Ya Rasulullah, I don't understand why this person entered second. And he said, didn't the second person live 1 year more after the first person? He said, yes. Didn't the second person had more time to pray than the first person? He said, yes. Didn't the second person have one more Ramadan than the first person? And he said, yes. So that's the point that I want to get across. Ramadan can be a game changer. It can take you from a person that is full of sin to a person full of good deeds. Ramadan is a month where you can actually get to the next level. You can go from being at the close of hellfire to Jannah. You can be from the first level to the second to the third, going all the way to the highest level of Jannah. This one Ramadan can really change your entire life. So this month that comes, don't take it lightly. It can really be the difference between your akhirah. So that's the first thing that I wanted to just discuss on why do we fast. The second question, and I would like some participation as well. Why is it so easy to do good things in Ramadan? Does anybody know? What's so special about Ramadan that makes it so easy?
Because everybody's doing it.
Everyone's doing it, that's a good point. If you have the entire community fasting from sunrise to sunset, it makes it easy. Okay. What else?
You're rewarded more.
You're rewarded more. Okay. Expand on that a little bit.
Every day, like times 7, amount of good deeds.
Okay. Yeah. The good deeds that you do, they are multiplied, so you are rewarded for all the good deeds you do in Ramadan. What else?
Good food.
Yeah. Depends on the iftar parties you go to. You have good food, so it's easier to do more good. Okay. The Prophet ﷺ, he says in a hadith, he says this month of Ramadan is a month where all of the shayateen are locked up. And he said the jinns are restrained. And this is a month where every single day people are freed from the hellfire. The gates of hell are closed, the gates of heaven are open, and the mercy of Allah descends on this month of Ramadan. That is really the key of why it's so easy. Because you don't have the temptations that you would have in the other parts of the year, the other months. In Ramadan, it's super easy to do all of these things. Now, the thing that happens is, even though it's easy to do good deeds in Ramadan, what happens? There are still people that will go in Ramadan, they might miss the salah. There are still people in Ramadan, they might still backbite. They might still not, be able to do certain actions that are required of them. Why does that happen? The scholars, they say that and this is something that we should all, check ourselves. If there is a bad deed or some sin that you think you're doing in Ramadan, then you have to realize that it's becoming so bad that it's a habit. Right? Because it's not somebody that's trying to... Shaitan's not going to whisper in your ears in Ramadan. Right? He's locked up. But it's becoming to a point where it's such a habit that it's naturally happening to you, even though in the month of Ramadan. So something we should definitely be trying to be careful of. Third question. What is the reward of fasting? Does anybody know? How much reward do you get for fasting? If I fast one day of Ramadan, how much reward do I get? Only Allah knows. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ is actually a hadith where he says, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says. So when there's a hadith and it's Allah saying something, does anybody know what that's called? It's a specific type of hadith. It's called a hadith Qudsi. So this is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that every deed that the son of Adam does, that deed is given a reward between anywhere from 10 to 700. As Saad said, the deeds that you do in Ramadan are multiplied by 70, right? So you could do something and it could be multiplied, by all the way up to 700. And then he says, but fasting is with me. I only give the reward of fasting. So that's one thing we have to understand. All the fast that you've done in your previous life, we actually don't know how much reward you're going to get. It's a reward only with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And think about the Ar-Rahman and the one who just gives. The one that when you ask him, he comes running to you. The one that if you were to make one dua, he can give you answers to thousands of du'as. This, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that's going to give you a reward for fasting, and you get that reward on the Day of Judgment. Right? It's going to be on your scale. So this is something that is so valuable and so powerful that sometimes we don't understand the benefit, the reward that we're actually getting. So we have 30 days of that reward coming up for us soon, inshallah. Now I could go into what you should do in Ramadan, how Ramadan should be. I think most people understand, the things that you're supposed to do. I'm going to focus on just the pitfalls that people fall into. What are some things that you should try to stay away from or avoid in Ramadan? Number one, you go into Ramadan without doing any pre-work. Anybody here go to the gym? I used to go to the gym before I had kids. Now my kids are my gym. I just pick them up all the time. But when you go to the gym, let's say you're about to do a bench press, right? Or you're about to go on a treadmill. What do? You don't just go into the gym, you check in and you just get on the treadmill. What are some things you have to do first?
Stretch.
Yeah. You got to stretch. You have to make sure you warm up a little bit, right? So you got to make sure you're ready, because what's going to happen if you just go start running full speed in the treadmill? You're going to hurt yourself. You try to lift 180 pounds and you haven't bench pressed that ever. So the thing about Ramadan is you gotta do your pre-work. That's why this month, right, of Sha'ban and then the month of Rajab, the Prophet ﷺ was used to fast a lot. He would fast so many times because he's trying to get ready for the month of Ramadan. So if we have a few days left, right? Ramadan is still, we have about maybe 2.5, 3 weeks left. So if you can practice some fast in Ramadan, please do. Get your body ready. You know, you can't just go in day one and just expect to be ready. I get migraines a lot. So what happens for me is if 1 year I don't practice fasting for Ramadan, that first day is the toughest day for me. The first 2 or 3 days, super hard. I get headaches all the time. But I know that if I'm able to do some fast beforehand, I just easily transition into it. You have to have a plan, pre-work that you can do before you get into this month of Ramadan. You also gotta have a plan in your household. Like what is the things you need to do before this month starts to make sure that you can focus fully on your worship. And to make sure that, if you need to go get an oil change, if you need to do certain types of, fixes around the house, or you need to prepare for, make sure your fridge is stocked up and your freezer is stocked up for Ramadan. Like you don't want to go to Makkah market the day before Ramadan, like it's going to be out of dates. They're not going to have any dates. You got to plan ahead of time, right? And, Uncle knows this already. But you got to make sure you're prepared. You don't want to just go into Ramadan expecting everything's going to be okay. It's because it's not going to work. You're going to get into a month and you're going to start a month without any preparation. So that's number one. Number two, you got to set goals. There's a thing, if you, in organizations, in a company that I work for, they set goals for the rest of the year. So there's you try to reach goals in a year in advance, and there's a strategy, it's called the SMART strategy. S-M-A-R-T, SMART goals you can set. It stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So what that strategy is basically, you want to set a goal that can meet all 5 of these criteria. So you want to so let's take that into Ramadan. We should set SMART goals this month to make sure we can achieve them. So the goal shouldn't be just in Ramadan, let's, read more Quran. That's a little bit general, but let's try to be more specific and let's try to be more reasonable. I want to read 1 surah from the Quran every day for 30 days. Right? That's something that's specific, that's relevant, that's something you can achieve, and that's something that's time-bound. So we should try to set goals and make sure we set something before Ramadan, because once you get into it, the hustle and bustle, you're not going to have enough time to be able to step back and try to set goals. Number 3, you want to become a better person after you come to Ramadan. That is the goal. If you don't get to be a better person after the month of Ramadan, it's literally, there's no point in all the fasting and the action that you did. There's a hadith where Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu, and he says, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, one might fast in Ramadan and he gets nothing but hunger. And he says one might pray at night, but he gets nothing except just fatigue. So we don't want to be those people. That we just go through the motions of Ramadan and just get nothing out of it. Number 4, that you don't ask for forgiveness in the month of Ramadan. This is the month where you can get the forgiveness for anything that you have done. And all of us are at fault at some shape or form, some things that we've done that we need forgiveness from Allah. And this is the time where we need to ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness. And, what's the dua? Does anybody know the dua in the last 10 nights of Ramadan that the Prophet would recite frequently in relation to forgiveness? Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. Allahumma innaka afuwun tuhibbul afwa fa'fu anna. This is the dua of the Prophet the last 10 nights of Ramadan, or 10 days of Ramadan as well. He would recite this frequently. This is something we need to make sure we implement, but also throughout the rest of the month we ask for forgiveness. Number 5, do not make Ramadan, somebody mentioned this, the food, right? Do not make Ramadan a month of just iftar parties and just late night qiyams where you're just socializing with people and trying to figure out where you can go for suhoor. sometimes, and sometimes I'm at a fault at this, and I'm looking at some of the young people here. Like Ramadan becomes like, what's the restaurants that are open late night so I can get suhoor there, right? Like restaurants change their timings to accommodate suhoor for the Muslim community. But Ramadan becomes like, which parties do I have lined up to go for iftar, and which qiyams I can go to where I'm just socializing in the hall, but I'm not actually attending the qiyam, and I'm in the parking lots just chatting with people. Let's try to really focus on Ramadan and make sure that it's not something that's going to distract us from the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 6, that you don't get to connect with the Quran. What is so special about Ramadan is that the Quran was revealed in it. Does anybody know the ayah that tells us this? That the month of Ramadan is when the Quran was revealed. Does anybody know what surah? Let's just start with this. Does anybody know what surah? There's an ayah in the Quran. What surah is it in that talks about Ramadan being a month where the Quran was revealed?
Surah Baqarah. Surah Baqarah.
Yes. شهر رمضان الذي أنزل فيه القرآن هدى للناس وبينات من الهدى والفرقان. That is in Surah Al-Baqarah. This is the ayah where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is clearly telling us that this is a month where the Quran was revealed. If every one of us here does not have a better relationship with the Quran after this month, it is truly, it's a loss for all of us then, that person. So really try to connect yourself more with the Quran. Really try to focus on not just reading. I think it's one thing from reading, but it's really another thing to understand and really try to implement the things in the Quran. There are also certain lectures. So some scholars have done some YouTube lectures in the course of the month of Ramadan where they literally go through each chapter of the Quran, each juz of the Quran, and they give some commentary. They give some feedback and how you can apply the lessons for those surahs into your life. So Sheikh Umar Sulaiman has a series on YouTube. Sheikh Yasir Qadi has a series on YouTube. You can literally just go on Google. If you are going to work and you're going on your commutes, just put on that YouTube video every day as you're commuting from work in Ramadan, and that is one way you can have a better relationship with the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 7, don't go into the fast. Don't go into Ramadan with, like such a zeal and effort that it really burns you out. What happens sometimes, people get into the month of Ramadan and they are just so excited. They will, wake up for suhoor. They'll fast the first day. They'll be a little bit tired, but they'll be like, I want to go for tarawih. The masjid might pray 8 rakat or 20 rakat. They're like, I'm going to go for the full 20. I can do this. They go for full 20. And then they say, the next day I'm going to, wake up for suhoor, and then after Fajr I'm not going to go to sleep. I'm going to read Quran because that's the goal that I've set. And then they fast the second day as well. They try to do 20 rakat of Taraweeh at night, and they try to do this, and by the 3rd and 4th day they're burned out. There's like a trend that sometimes people see in masjids, that the first 4 or 5 days you'll see the masjid being packed, and that middle 10 days of Ramadan is when it's kind of, you see a dip, and then the people try to come back in the last few days of Ramadan. Let's try to pace yourselves when you're going to Ramadan. Don't burn yourself out, and do it in a way where the last 10 days, last 10 nights specifically, you go all out. I use this example a lot, and I'll say it again. Some people have already heard it. I used to run track in high school. And in track, there's a 400-meter race that you run. And my coach would always say, don't burn yourself in the first 100 meters. When the first start, people run really fast, and what happens? They burn themselves out and they lose the race. He says, pace yourself the first 100 meters, and all the way until the last turn. That last 100 meters, that's when you give it your all. So once you reach that last end, you give it all you got and make sure you win the race. Similar thing with Ramadan, you make sure that the last few nights you have, you give it all that you can and give it your best. And then number 7, this is the last thing I'll just end with, is, one thing is Laylatul Qadr. Which juz is the surah where Allah talks about Laylatul Qadr?
Surah Amma.
Inna anzalnahu fi Laylatul Qadr. This is something we have, try to do the best that you can to take advantage of this. One simple tip that I was told, and it was a different perspective that a scholar told me, sometimes people will say you have to pray that night. You have to pray that night, which is great, which is true. You have to pray that night. But another thing the scholars, they say, is that you can do a good action that night that could count towards the reward of that action being more than 1,000 months. So as an example, let's say on the last 10 nights, every night you donate $10 to whatever, you could be at the masjid or any organization, to whatever, donate wherever you want. If you do that action every single night in the last 10 nights of Ramadan, the scholars, they say that if that action will definitely land on Laylatul Qadr, you will get the reward of donating $10 for more than 1,000 months. Right? An example of that is that. So try to think about actions that you can do in the last 10 nights, which can land on the Laylatul Qadr and give you that reward, inshallah. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to help us reach the month of Ramadan. Right? There's only a few weeks left, and we never know when death will come. And we know that sometimes there were people that were with us last Ramadan that are not here with us now, right? During the Isha Salat, the Imam mentioned a few people that have passed away in the community. So we ask Allah, number one, Ya Allah, help us reach the month of Ramadan. And number two, Ya Allah, we ask you to really help us make this Ramadan the best Ramadan that we have in our life.
Ameen.
Ya Allah, we ask you to make this Ramadan the game changer which can help us lead to the highest level of Jannah.
Ameen.
We ask Allah to make this Ramadan, and not just for us, but for our families, to make this a blessed time, and a time where all of us as a family can get closer to you, Ya Allah. Ameen. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار ربنا لا تزغ قلوبنا بعد إذ هديتنا وهب لنا من لدنك رحمة إنك أنت الوهاب سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. Just a few things that I wanted to just mention. This program was organized by Islamic Circle of North America. Alhamdulillah, they're doing a lot of activities here for basically anyone. Anybody, whether it's male, female, young, old, revert, new Muslim, there's programs that Islamic Circle of North America has for literally everyone, the entire family. Some of the things that they've been doing, there's a Quranic review, a neighbornet, a review that happens here. It's Tuesdays and Thursdays at 9 p.m. On Saturday, or at Saturday at 9:30 a.m. There's the YM Brothers, the youth here between the age of 15 to 25. They meet every Saturday here, Saturday nights. There's an MCNA program for children that happens every other week on Friday at 6 p.m. The sisters as well, they have their own programs. They're going through a journey with the Quran. They actually go through this program every year where they go through the meaning of the Quran. It kind of goes into the month of Ramadan. It's going to be, starting on March 6th, Monday through Wednesday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. The YM Sisters as well, they have their own program every Saturday. They meet as well. So please, if you guys want to be part of these programs, they're here at this masjid, and please try to be involved in any capacity that you can. And inshallah, we have some dinner now, I think, right?
Yes.
Do you have any announcements?
I think so.
Okay.
You can add it.
All right,